November 24th, 1971, Thanksgiving Eve. A man calling himself Dan Cooper boards Northwest Orient Flight 305, jumps out of the aft stairs of a Boeing 727 with $200,000 in cash, and vanishes into the freezing Washington rain. History says the FBI looked at 800 outside suspects. But actually, maybe the world's greatest skyjacker was already on the airline payroll. Actually, maybe. For over 50 years, the Bureau looked for a ghost in a trench coat, a phantom paratrooper who magically knew how to operate a commercial airliner. They should have been looking in the crew lounge. Meet Kenneth Christensen. He wasn't a shadow in the woods. He was a full-time employee of Northwest Orient Airlines, working over the years as a mechanic, a flight attendant, and a purser. And by late 1971, Kenny was furious. The airline was locked in a brutal labor war. Staff pay was strained, resentment was boiling, and Kenny was highly vocal about his hatred for corporate management. But unlike a disgruntled passenger who writes a letter, Kenny had a very specific set of skills. He was a World War II paratrooper. He was a trained airline mechanic. He didn't need to guess how much fuel a 727 burned at 10,000 feet. And he didn't need a manual to know how to lower the rear stairs in mid-flight without tearing the tail off the aircraft. He built his career on those exact dimensions. The FBI assumed the hijacker was an outsider who got lucky. But an outsider has to sneak a bomb past the gate, guess the airline security protocols, and hope the crew obeys. An insider? An insider already knows the schedule, the blind spots, and exactly how the corporate office reacts to a crisis. The Feds spent decades chasing a phantom passenger in C-18C, but Kenny didn't need to buy a ticket to steal a fortune from his employers. He just needed to follow the company manual. If Kenneth Christensen was the mastermind, why isn't he behind bars? The FBI looked at him. They checked his name, and then they crossed him off the list. Why? Because of a drawing. The flight crew was adamant. The skyjacker had a full head of dark, slicked-back hair. But in 1971, Kenny Christensen was already significantly balding at the crown. Case closed, right? Only if you believe a master thief would show up to his own heist bareheaded. Kenny spent years watching how passengers looked at crew members. He knew a secret about human psychology. Under stress, the human brain latches on to the loudest details. A dark suit, big sunglasses, a thick head of hair. If you want to disappear, you don't wear a mask. You wear a distraction. It was a masterclass in misdirection. By giving the witnesses a specific silhouette, the hair, the glasses, the calm composure, he ensured that the moment he took off the toupee and the shades, the man in the sketch ceased to exist. The FBI was hunting a ghost with a full head of hair, while Kenny walked right past them with a bald head. The Bureau dismissed him because his physical dimensions didn't neatly align with the frantic notes taken by terrified flight attendants. They fell for the alibi he manufactured. For them. The FBI thought they were checking off a suspect. But actually, maybe, they were just completing the final step of Kenny's checklist. He gave them a perfect illusion, and the greatest investigative agency in the world bought it wholesale. If you drop out of a skyjacked plane and walk away with $200,000 in cash, you have a massive problem. You can't just walk into a bank and deposit it. You can't buy a mansion. Because the FBI is waiting for the serial numbers to move. Amateur sleuths love to claim Kenny bought his house entirely with cash right after the heist. But local property records completely debunked that fantasy. In 1972, Kenny took out a standard, painfully slow 17-year mortgage on this plot of land. Mainstream historians call the mortgage an alibi. I call it a masterpiece. Kenny didn't survive World War II and a decades-long airline career by being stupid. He knew that paying cash for real estate is the fastest way to get a visit from the feds. Long before the hijacking, Kenny bought a massive, cheap plot of land. Decades later, he began slowly selling off small pieces of it, acre by acre, for $17,000 apiece. Suddenly, a massive paper trail appeared. The land sales perfectly accounted for the influx of wealth later in his life. If the IRS or the FBI ever looked at his bank accounts, they didn't see skyjacking money. They saw a smart real estate investor. He used his past to launder his future. He didn't hide his cash in a suitcase under the floorboards. He hid it inside a 17-year mortgage and a stack of property deeds. He made his fortune look entirely legal, one monthly payment at a time. Kenneth Christensen passed away on July 30th, 1994, at the age of 67. He took his secrets to the grave, leaving behind a modest legacy and over $200,000 in his bank accounts, along with a pristine, priceless coin collection. Not bad for a retired airline purser. But the real confession wasn't hidden in a bank vault. It was sitting in a family photo album. Just weeks after the skyjacking, Kenny posed for a picture holding his flight gear, flashing a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. Mainstream history claims the photo was just a tongue-in-cheek joke among coworkers, a running gag on the airline payroll. But the brilliant mind knows that the absolute best place to hide a confession is inside a joke. The FBI calls this case closed. Just another footnote in the history books. But actually, maybe the sky doesn't leave a paper trail. Actually, maybe.